Have you been considering moving to the Baltimore metro area, specifically Baltimore City? Well, if you have been, I am not surprised. Since 2024 started, Baltimore has been getting a lot of positive publicity, which makes me really, really happy. New York Times voted Baltimore as one of the top 52 places to go in 2024. And Forbes magazine named Baltimore number 5 in a list of 10 most affordable places to live in the United States. I am a huge fan of Baltimore. I have been here for a very long time, since 2006. I've been living in the city that entire time. So I have my particular thoughts and preferences about the city, but you really need to know what is going on in Baltimore, the truth of Baltimore, to make sure that making a move to the city is what you want to do. In today's video, I'm gonna be going through 10 things that might be negatives to think about in case you are on the fence about moving to Baltimore, or you just really wanna know the truth about some of Baltimore's negative aspects. Again, a disclaimer for this video, I love Baltimore, but I think that everybody who is making a move to a new place, to a new city, should have all of the information so that they can make the best decisions for themselves and for their families. So let's get into the 10 reasons why you might not want to move to Baltimore right now. Okay, reason number 1 on the list why you might not want to move to Baltimore is crime exists in this city. There is a stark difference in the city between the haves and the have-nots. There is poverty, there is crime. Baltimore is an urban area, and so things like homicides, things like property thefts happen in the city all the time. It is very important to make sure when you are researching communities in Baltimore that you look at crime statistics, specifically at Baltimore City's crime data map, to make sure that you know the neighborhood that you're living in meets your standards of safety. Speaking for myself personally, I have never had an issue with assault or crime myself personally. Do I know people who have? Sure. So I don't want to kind of have this blanket statement that Baltimore is filled with crime and it's all around the corner, but it's something on the list of things to think about and things to do your research on. We all know that Baltimore does have a reputation for being a rougher city, for having rougher areas, and it's true. You can go to certain areas, certain blocks in Baltimore, and it's row after row of houses that are vacant, that are boarded up. There might be people doing drug deals on the corner. That exists here. There are areas like that, but it is in concentrated areas. It is by no means a description of the city as a whole. So again, as someone who is new to the area, do your due diligence and make sure to research crime, research neighborhoods, and make sure that you're making informed decisions about where you want to live. Okay, number 2 on the list is politics. And the reason that I say politics is that Baltimore is a very blue, very democratic city. It's had democratic mayors pretty much time after time after time. And so that's just something to know, that it's kind of more of a liberal area. So if you are not into liberal politics, democratic politics, if that bothers you, Baltimore might not be your jurisdiction. Another reason that politics might be a negative, the politics of Baltimore City, is because kind of everyone is on the same page. That might be a reason why there is a little bit of dysfunction in Baltimore's government sometimes in terms of getting things done. There might not be disparate voices. I'm no politician, I don't know, but I think sometimes that discord or that having different ideas and beliefs kind of brings new policies about. So that's just one thing to think about. Politics in Baltimore is democratic and something to know about our charming town. All right, number 3 on the list of reasons you might not want to move to Baltimore is diversity. Baltimore is a pretty diverse city. We're a majority Black city, but we have a good mix of Black residents, white residents. We have a large Hispanic population and everything in between, honestly. And the diversity is shown by different enclaves of neighborhoods. We have Greektown, we have Highlandtown, we have different places that have different cultural flavors. And I think that that's one of the things that makes Baltimore so wonderful. But if you want a more heterogeneous environment where everybody is the same and you don't hear different languages on the street and you don't see ethnic restaurants and things like that, Baltimore might not be the place for you. Number 4 on the list of reasons you might not want to move to Baltimore is sports. If you are not a big sports fan, you might get sick to death of hearing all about the Orioles and the Ravens. People in this town go crazy for their birds. We are Bird City. So if you are not into sports, if you don't want the person in the office at the water cooler asking you if you watched the game yesterday, or seeing the whole city light up purple because they're excited about the Ravens, then Baltimore might not be the place for you. I have to say, I am not the biggest sports fan. I've definitely been to an Orioles game and I enjoy them because I really like hot dogs. I've never been to a Ravens game. I definitely watched them a little bit the time they went to the Super Bowl, like back in 2010 or something like that. This year, I know they were in the playoffs, but I was not watching. But I will say, I don't get bothered by people asking me about my opinion on the Ravens or the Orioles. I just let them know, no, I didn't watch, I'm not into it. But if you are not an avid sports fan and something like that would bother you, Baltimore might not be your town. Number 5 on the list are Baltimore drivers. Okay. I gotta say this, and I am originally from North Carolina, so I'm used to a more laid back pace and pretty easygoing drivers. I would say Baltimore drivers are not that. Not the best drivers in the world, and I have a few accidents to prove it that were not my fault. So in my opinion, Baltimore drivers are not the greatest. And you will find in Baltimore City itself, you will be paying higher insurance rates usually than in the outer lying areas and in the county, because I think the likelihood of accidents is higher and just like property crimes with cars are higher because a lot of times people do street parking versus parking in garages, and obviously there's more likelihood of those types of things happening in a city versus in the county. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. If you're new to my channel, welcome. You have come to the right place for all that there is about living, working, playing, thriving in the Baltimore metro area. Make sure that you hit the subscribe button and you tap the bell for notifications so that you can be alerted as soon as there is new content on the channel. Hi, my name is Persia, and I'm a local real estate agent here in Baltimore, and I work in all of the surrounding metro area. So if you are thinking about making a move to the Baltimore metro area, make sure to reach out to me. I would love to help you. I get calls from folks just like you every single day who are thinking about making the transition to Baltimore. So whether you're thinking about moving in 9 days or 90 days, give me a call, shoot me a text, send me an email. We can schedule a video call, and it would be my absolute pleasure to help you make a smooth transition to Baltimore. Next on the list is public transportation. Baltimore is not as well equipped as some other cities when it comes to public transportation. It exists and people use it every single day. People use the MTA bus system. People use the light rail. People use the metro, I assume. I've never used it, but I know that it exists and people probably use it. But it is not as robust as other places like New York or Washington, D.C., where the metro is really well developed and you can get to every which way. There's been a lot of talk in the works about Baltimore building more lines, more light rail lines specifically, to go in different directions to have more connectivity, but that has not happened yet. It's kind of been a political football that just has not been resolved. So the public transportation is a little bit disjointed. I would say the bus lines exist. You do have to wait for them, and they're not as reliable as other modes of transportation might be in other places. So if you are somebody who relies on public transportation to get around, that is definitely something to consider. Okay, another reason why you might not want to move to Baltimore is the property taxes. Baltimore City has the highest property tax rate in all of the state of Maryland. So it's quite high. And just to give you kind of an idea of how high it is, Baltimore City's property tax rate is 2.248%, whereas Baltimore County's property tax rate is only 1.1%, right? So on a typical $350,000 house, your property taxes in Baltimore City would be about $8,200, where your property taxes in Baltimore County would be about half of that at $4,200. So it really does make a difference. I do know that addressing the Baltimore City tax rate and how high it is has been something that's been on the political agenda in Baltimore in order to increase people's desire to come and live in the city. There's a whole campaign, Live Baltimore, to encourage people to work in the city, to live in the city, and to get more residents to come back, because a lot of people leave the city to go to the county where rates are better, where schools are better, that type of thing. So it has been something that I know has been in the works to see if that can be lowered. At this time, we are where we are, but it's really important for you to know that Baltimore City does have the highest property tax rate in the state. Okay, another reason you might not want to move to Baltimore is the weather. Number one, the weather can be really unpredictable, and I know that can be in other places too, but we think that spring is coming and then it's cold again. We think that it's winter time. Today was 61 degrees in the beginning of February. So I know weather is wild everywhere, but Baltimore weather is really, really unpredictable. Sometimes we have really big snows. Sometimes it doesn't snow at all. In the summertime, it is very, very hot and humid. So if you are not a person who can deal with sticky humidity and sticky heat, then Baltimore might not be the environment for you. Next on the list of reasons why you might not be interested in moving to Baltimore is that Baltimore City can be quite segregated in some areas. And that's one of the first things that I noticed when I moved here, actually. And even though it is diverse, that was one of the things that I already gave in this video. It is diverse, but some areas have really stark contrast when it comes to racial divides. Baltimore, like a lot of urban cities, has a history of redlining. And if you've never heard of redlining before, it was rules and regulations that were put in place by the government to kind of separate and segregate. So to make sure that Black people could not live in certain neighborhoods. Also, a lot of communities in Baltimore were covenant communities. And now a covenant community basically means that you have certain rules and regulations about what the exterior of your building has to look like, the exterior of your home, in order to keep it uniform and going with the theme. So think of like neighborhoods like Guilford, neighborhoods like Homeland. Those are all covenant communities. But what they meant back in the day when they were originally established, there were covenants that prevented certain people, Black people, from living in these neighborhoods. So in Baltimore, you will see vestiges of segregation because that's how a lot of these neighborhoods, especially the wealthier neighborhoods, were established. Racial diversity is important to me. I like seeing people of all walks of life, all socioeconomic status, all races. And so the community that I live in now, which is Hamilton in Baltimore, has a great mixture of people, all races, all socioeconomic statuses, every walk of life. And I really love that. And it's very, very possible to find communities in Baltimore that are mixed, that are diverse, that have all kinds of people. But I think it's really important to kind of recognize that housing history and how it has shaped Baltimore's racial makeup. Okay, last on the list of reasons you might not want to move to Baltimore are the schools. Having a family, having children, it's really important to families, to parents, where their kids to go to school, that the kids' schools are high performing. And overall, niche.com gives Baltimore a C average for its schools. So by no means are all of the schools in Baltimore failing, and by no means are all of the schools in Baltimore bad. But overall, if you're looking for public schools, you have to be very intentional about finding schools that are well performing, because not every community and not every neighborhood has well performing schools. Baltimore City also has a really high concentration of private schools. And one of the things that was new to me when I moved to this area in 2006 was that so many of my colleagues at my job, their kids went to private schools. And I actually have experience working in a private school. I'm a former Spanish teacher, and I worked at the Friends School of Baltimore, which is a local private school. And so, you know, I saw that many families send their kids to private schools as an alternative to maybe not having the public school options that they would like to have in their communities. Obviously, the big difference between a public school and private school is that you gotta pay for private school. So that's not necessarily an option for everybody, but Baltimore has plenty of public schools, charter schools, alternative schools that might meet your needs. So again, I would really recommend taking a look at niche.com, where it ranks different schools, ranks the school systems, and you can do your own research as to what neighborhoods might suit your needs if you have school-age children. Listen, I absolutely love living in Baltimore City. There is so much to love about this town. If you go back to my videos, I have like places to go. I have the pros and cons of Baltimore. So there's a lot to love. I do not want people to think that living in Baltimore is all negative, but I do like to give real information for those of you who are thinking about making a move to this great town. And if you are thinking of making a move to Baltimore, I work with people like you every single day who are thinking about making the transition. So please reach out to me. I am happy to help you make a smooth move to Baltimore. You can call me, you can text me, you can shoot me an email, we can schedule a video call, and it would be my absolute pleasure to help you make a smooth transition to Baltimore. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.